So excited for this first committee meeting of newly formed streets, housing, and safety. What I wanted to do today is sort of a few items. One is to go over some really just interesting housing data. Oh, sorry, mic on. Still early. Some really cool housing data just to share. I got this from OKI. There is a link and anyone can go online and take a look at it. I know, Mr. Moore, we won't see you forever because you're just going to go down the rabbit hole. It's really fascinating. And I'm even getting new data as soon as today, just from some questions Mr. Powers and I had taking a look at it. Good evening. And then want to do a quick overview of streets. I also want to just talk about sort of what we want this committee to look like. Housing, streets, and safety might mean different things to different people. I stuck a sustainability thing in there because to me that fits with human health. I don't know. So let's just start by talking about the housing data. Again, this is not necessarily to make this is just data without interpretation as of now. So it's kind of up to us to decide what that data means and what we want to do with it. But for folks watching at home, you can find this on the OKI housing website, and that's kind of what it looks like. It's a dashboard, and they have data on here from 2014 and 2023. So those are the two big years that they are comparing to sort of see what has transpired. And we can also compare to all other communities and neighborhoods in the greater Hamilton County community. So, of course, mostly we just care about Norwood. So the next slide down is just some overview on basic age distribution. If you can see, the first chunk is 2014, the second chunk is 2023. And we basically, even as our population has increased, our ratios are pretty similar. Some of these I'm going to go through a little more rapidly. Oh, I don't know what that means. Oh,
you're missing.
Okay, well, we miss household type, so I can just share what that slide was, which is kind of interesting. The majority of Norwoodians are living alone or with a roommate at 56%. Then the next is 19% married with no children, 12% married with children, single parent 8, and living with another relative, no children, is 6. So again, just sort of interesting data. And then this one is our cost burdened. Again, on the left-hand side is from 2014. The darker reds and oranges are the more cost burdened households. And on the right-hand side is 2023. So you can see significant improvement in those cost burdened households, but Norwood still has quite a lot of them. And actually, yes.
I have a copy of this slideshow just from transferring.
Oh, awesome.
So the darker the color, the more burdened.
Correct. So the darkest red or orange is over 50% of households are cost burdened. And cost burdened is, it's really feedbacky, is 30% of their income.
Yeah, that's the typical metric that pretty much everyone uses to determine whether housing is affordable or not, is 30% of household income goes to housing.
So this next one is severely cost burdened, and we still have some of those. Not nearly as much, and again, significantly improved. Severely burdened is more than 50% of your income goes to housing. Housing unit and occupancy. This is what I was really surprised by. 2014, we had over 10,000 units and had a vacancy rate of 15%, and now it's at 11%. So it's great that it's going down, but I was still surprised by that 11% because that's sort of what's considered when you have a vacancy issue is over 10%. So I did reach out to OKI and got, maybe that's a little further down in my slides. because I got some great data for that. Okay, we're gonna have to come back to that further down. Apologies. This next one, oh, this is really interesting as well. This talks about the the number of units that we have. Again, 2014 is in red, 23 is in blue. Most of what we have are single units, then the 3 or 4, then the multi 5 to 19, then 2 units. So sort of interesting.
And that's going to change a lot with the new apartments coming online in the next year or two. I mean, we already have a bunch added since 2023. So,
but we're we're about to have a huge
a huge influx
bubble. Yeah.
Yes.
And then did the unit age in there? Go back. Apologies. Unit age. Okay, that's not in here. Most of our buildings were built prior to 1940, which no one from Norwood is surprised by that. But that's pretty unusual that most of our housing stock is that old. In fact, I saw an article that was talking about a new housing build in 2018. It was a new house that was built. It was like the first new house built in Norwood in
40 years.
In 40 years.
Yes, I read the same article.
Yes. It was like, wow. I mean, it was that big a deal that we were having something new built here because, you know, we've got 3 square miles and most of it's pretty built up. Okay, this is housing costs by tenure. Tenure means do you live in an apartment or in a house? So the folks that live in apartments are renting, are purple. So you can see those are mostly the lower cost apartments, the $600, the $1,000 ones. And then the ones that are owned are $1,000 to the 3,500 range. And then you see a big hunk of homes that don't have a mortgage. The mortgage has been paid off. So those are some folks who've been here for a hot minute. Did I go backwards again?
No.
This is the same slide, so I didn't have the age unit one in here. Okay, this I also thought was really fascinating. So time in the same owner-occupied house. Like I know on my street, I've been in our house longer than any other resident in my house, which was built in 1900. So like how long is the average person in a home? Well, in Norwood, most people in Norwood have lived in their same home for 5 to 12 years. So that's the biggest group of Norwoodians are 5 to 12 years. Then 2 to 4 years. Then, this is my group, 23 to 32 years. So you can really see we're skewing more newer Norwood than older Norwood. And I did some math. So here, under 12 years is 5,622. And more than 12 years, 4,437. And that just sort of really surprised me. And of that, who have been here for more than 12 years, only 1,366 have been here for more than 32 years. Again, just interesting information.
That is 1,000 homes or 1,000 people?
It's the number of residents in a home. Yeah. And then here's the same information for renters. So for renters, the biggest is 2 to 4 years, then 5 to 12, then under 2. So again, skews very, very newer. But I also appreciate that there's a significant group that has been renting for over 32 years.
Dang.
And I have residents on my street that rent and have been there for over a decade. So I think that that's just an important demographic, that you can be a renter and live in a community forever. This is about mortgage applications over time. And what I thought was most interesting about this is the decline of mortgage applications. So fewer people in Norwood over time are applying for mortgages here. But
This is post-pandemic.
yeah, it started at 2020, yeah.
That's
And-
as far back as the data goes.
For this one, yes. But I also thought it was interesting that the denied level stayed about the same.
Yeah. So it's not that people are getting denied, it's just that fewer people are applying.
This is also wild. Inflation adjusted rent and home. So blue is people's home value. After being here, I can tell you my home has dramatically increased in value. I'm not exactly sure what was happening in the mid 20 teens for rents, but you can see that rent is still significantly lower than the home value. And it's also lower than Hamilton County. Oh, well, that was that one. That's the Hamilton County one. You don't get to see that either.
Secret.
Only it's not. It might be on Jeff's.
I've got it on.
Can you go back?
Sure.
One more. So is the thought here that this one, like I don't love how 4 years isn't like a huge sample size, but I mean, is the thought here that basically the new mortgage applications decreasing almost speaks to like a stickiness factor of like there aren't as many homes turning over because there's more people sort of
Staying
like
longer.
settling here and our housing stock is
That would be an interpretation. At this point, I'm not.
sure.
That's a question. Yeah, I don't know why. I think it would be great to have some conversations with some lenders about that and what they're seeing from their viewpoint. And then, the mystery page, which,
If you hit escape, does it show up on the keyboard?
No, it looks like it's just a dead
link.
dead picture, unfortunately.
Okay, so this
It's down.
one is the demographic comparison. Okay, so this is our total population of Hamilton County versus Norwood, the city of Norwood. And if you go, it says that it's at the 11%. The big piece of data is in Norwood, 18% is
Under 18.
under 18, sorry, thank you. And then 47% are owning their home and 52 are renting. And then 11% of the city of Norwood is vacant. Properties are vacant.
Wow.
Yeah. So then here's some information that I just got today because I was like,
wondering
that's a
that.
crazy big number. So they did a bigger deep dive and found that these are just sort of similar communities and that we're actually kind of right in there with the other ones. They were also surprised by that 11%. And then some other thoughts on that. Here it is. This didn't make it on here. He said roughly 1,000 units of housing in the city of Norwood that are vacant are not being listed for sale or for rent in 2023. These are likely properties that are being held by investors, housing trusts, going through probate, or distressed properties that are abandoned. 2, or units that are currently built but not yet on the market. So we probably have some that are in that dead space. Since the ACS 5-year data, that's where this comes from. Since it's a rolling estimate, there could be a lag between when new units come online and when they become occupied. Only an additional 100 units are listed as vacant, being due to sale or lease. So we were also trying to figure out how much of this might be some Xavier students, when are we counting when the houses are vacant or when they're full of students.
Yep. And then houses are vacant in between occupants too. It takes several months sometimes to clean them out and get them back up. So So that 10% is not like it's the same 10% necessarily. It's like a total rolling, like one goes listed, the other one comes vacant, et cetera. So it's not that there's 10% of houses empty all the time. It's 10% total at any given time, which is an important distinction, I think.
But that is a number that I think we're going to want to pay attention to and try to reduce. Comparison of occupancy rates over time. Again, just more information. This is comparing us to Hamilton County. And vacant is pink and blue is occupied. So again, much less vacancy than in 2014, but ways to go.
Which 2014 was that spike in prices of rentals.
It could be. This is when they did this is the 2014 is the data that OKI got for everybody.
No, I don't know what that means. That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was that weird spike of prices.
Inflation adjusted housing value. So you can also see the dotted line is Hamilton County, blue is Norwood. So we have caught up significantly towards Hamilton County, but we're still under cost compared to the county. Another dead screen, which is that one. Oh, should I do this thing again?
Nope, it just,
No? Okay.
I think it looks like when you downloaded the PowerPoint, not all the images got downloaded too, which happens occasionally when they're.
This is not my day job. This is about rents, Hamilton County comparison, and our rents are significantly lower. I mean, this much lower over time.
The average for Hamilton County as a whole is more toward 1,500, and the average for us is more toward 1,200, to give you a sense of scope.
Thank you.
I'm now your assistant.
It takes a village. And then I just threw this in here in terms of senior housing. I know we've been talking about this. We have 120 nursing care beds. My assumption is that's with the manor.
Yeah.
We don't have any independent or assisted living units, which is just.
That's weird because so many communities have at least one or two. Even Bethel out in Claremont County has some.
Again, just sort of.
Will the Quality Insight, would that be independent living units?
No, it's just not, independent living is sort of a, no, these are just going to be 55 and up. So no services. Independent living has services that are folded in. And so this is not that. You just have to be, but actually I would be eligible for Quality In.
Do we think that there's a chance that pertains to just kind of the age and the density of Norwood? Like when I think about those facilities, I think about them as being like a little flatter and sprawlier. And so like maybe places where land is more abundantly available than Norwood, more
Maybe there's a couple
welcoming.
in Hyde Park.
Do they have some?
Oh, yeah. Marjorie Peely is a beautiful one. That's where I'd like
By
to
the
go.
square, yeah.
There's like the towers. I mean, there's.
Yeah, so, but yeah, a lot
really-
of times in more rural areas, yeah, they tend to spread it out because having just a single story is easier for people with disabilities. But yeah, in cities, they tend to be more tower-based.
Okay.
There's that big one up north that's really expensive. So anyway, so yeah, just interesting. Different land use. Yep.
So this is just, again, high level, throwing out just some housing data. I encourage all of you, and I'll email it to you, to spend some time checking it out and figuring out what are questions that we want to ask, what are challenges that we see here. For me, the big one is the vacancy. Wrap around to that. I also just wanted to share all the different. Oh, are now the pictures going to come up?
No,
Oh, man.
illegal, cannot be seen.
Well, that's annoying.
Imagine a building.
Imagine a building. It's been hard to keep track of all the development that Norwood's had going on. So I just want to give us a snapshot of the ones that are currently in the pipeline coming online. The first is Sherman Oaks. I've got a picture of it here. The owner's Gaslight. It's going to have 108 apartments, and it did get 100% abatement for 15 years. I did ask about the rents. When they were first coming, they were talking to them about being sort of workforce housing. And my understanding, but again, I'm waiting for clarification, is that this is not any subsidized, but rather than doing all the high-end features, instead of granite, they'll do quartz. And so the rents will be naturally a little lower than the really fancy blingy ones.
Yeah, when I last talked to the developer or one of his associates, Tyson, thanks, I couldn't remember his name. He said that they were hoping for it to be affordable for people about 70 to 90 AMI, which is the average median income. So this is different than a subsidized unit. It's not like Section 8 or any of these other things. This is just apartments that are like good starter apartments for people who are just getting in the workforce, that are like not luxury, essentially. So many apartments have come online that are luxury, and that's great if you can afford them. But I'm glad that we're having some differences in rent cost in Norwood to be more in line with who actually lives here already, or in who is maybe looking to move here, young families, people just starting out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the neatest things about this list is we do have some variety. So Sherman Oaks, again, sort of workforce, but still market rate. The next is Bicycle Tower. That's part of the PLK Factory 52. And that is going to be 190 apartments. Those are the more luxury. That looks like my mortgage for some of those. But also I know lots of folks who live in Factory 52 and love it. And then we have the Trail House. That is coming on so fast. That is Uptown Rentals. That's going to be 205 apartments. They also got a CRA abatement, 100% for 15 years. I found the rental rates online. They seem to be in line with sort of the Factory 52, luxury, with 1,400 for the studio and a 2-bedroom with a den, 3,075.
This is near Dana Avenue.
Yeah, this is the Trail House on Wasson Way.
Next to Stone Winds.
Yeah. So that one's definitely aiming more with an eye toward the osteopathic school, for people who are going to be going to that and are not undergraduates and want a slightly nicer place to live. I think that'll be great for that.
An undergrad can pay for it. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, these are not this is not student housing. This
Right.
is not intended for students.
Yeah.
This is for
people who are above 22.
Hey, there's one that lasted. Okay, so this is the townhomes, the multicolor, and it's going to be the 74 townhomes plus 100% abatement for 15 years. Again, rental will be market rate. I'm not sure what those are. And these will be for rent. These will not be for sale.
I think it's 45 towns.
I had, from all the back and forth, I had both 48 and 45.
Yeah, but this is
So-
74.
Oh, this
That's
is the
the
north.
other
This
side.
is north. Yeah, this is the townhomes that are in
They're already being
the
built.
multicolor area, not the Robertson
North of
South
Robertson.
ones. I know. We are so fortunate. We have so much construction that we need.
I think they tend to call this multicolor north,
Yes.
and then the multicolor south is the one on the other side. And then here's the Quality Inn site. This is being done with PLK and Virgin Health. Virgin Health is the company in Indiana that specializes in affordability. And this is 55 and up. They're going to have 174 to 178 1 and 2 bedrooms. And they're getting the CRA abatement 100% and TIF for 100. And it will be 50 to 70% of the Hamilton County AMI.
So like,
And then, so the rent estimated will be about $975 to $1,300 a month. Utilities are included, and it didn't make it on the slide, but they're also going to have solar, which I
yay.
think will be cool.
That's a good spot for it.
Yeah.
And to note, so the Sherman Oaks, it would be 70 to 90% of AMI, which would be approximately 1,300 to 1,500 a month for rent, just to give you an idea. So this would be affordable to someone making between $55,000 to $70,000 in this area.
Has that been finalized?
I don't think it's been finalized.
Yeah.
That is just what they had estimated. So this is not me saying that is what it's going to cost. Please do not come for me, Tyson. That's just what I estimated.
And then this last one is Allison Elementary. I know folks are super excited about this. Ventura owns it. It's going to be 17 townhouses and 23 apartment condos. And these will be for sale, is my understanding. And they're doing an 80 to 100% abatement for 15 years. Again, the numbers on this are still being worked on. This is not in stone. And this one after that. And then this is totally unrelated, but it didn't show up. I wonder if these are the ones that I screen grabbed. Not sure. Well,
I think it is
the Sustainability Summit, which I just wanted to talk about, which is going to be on March the 4th. We're going to have a community composting program that's going to be starting in Norwood, mini recycling hub. There's going to be a special presentation on low waste living by Hamilton County Resource. If you go to the Board of Health website or the city Facebook page, you can find links for it. We already have over 25 people signed up, and we might need to move it to the community center.
Nice.
So that is a great problem to have. So that's just sort of an info dump. Wanted to talk about, after that, where do you guys want to go with this? Oh, where's the streets? The streets didn't make it on. Because I got some really great street info. I can share that real quick. Not visually, but verbally. I'll just say the streets that were done in 2025, Lincoln Ave, Rolston Ave, Montgomery Road, those were all completed in 2025 or almost done. Lincoln Ave cost 1.9 million, Rolston 2.1, Montgomery Road, just the paving, 3.3, and the pedestrian safety, 4.1. I just want people to have a sense of, when I first started on council, I thought a road was like, I don't know, like $100,000, $200,000. No, much, much more. The upcoming projects for 26, Lexington, I think that might be the worst street right now in Norwood.
There's many contenders.
I think that might have, it's pretty bad. Anyway, so that one is slated for 2026, and we did a combination, a grant loan with OPWC, and that is, again, estimated 1.6 million. South Jefferson, again, a 50% grant and loan with OPWC for 2.2. Wayland, just east of Montgomery, grant loan for 1.139. Wesley, 50 grant loan for 1.8. And Wire, we're still getting the full scope of the project because we might also try to do a new water line with a TIF and SORTA funding, about 1.4. And I can say that Emily, a few years ago, did a lovely presentation on how our streets paved, because a lot of people were under the understanding that there was like a master list, and we just were starting at this one and moving our way down. And it's slightly more complicated, but also I think a really good strategy that we've had where we did years ago, one of the things that the mayor did when he first came on as mayor was he did a street survey of all of our streets, and they rated them, ranked them. And then when we would come up for funding, Mr. Zimmerman, the director of public works at the time, superintendent, would take one street from each ward that looked like it would be the best fit for that grant, because grants have very unusual, like I will take a look at a street and say, that looks worse than this one, but there's a reason that this one has a higher priority because of the water line or the something structurally happening underneath. So it was really not the city choosing. The city would say, here are 4, which do you think? And then the state would say, this is the one we'll pay for. So it wasn't like, well, we want this street done, and that was the street that would be done. And it's not like we're going to give you $1 million, you pick the street. So it's a more complicated process than that. And we are in the process of doing a new street survey because the one that was done when the mayor first came on is now outdated. Streets that were really bad are now done. Streets that were bad are now worse. So we're going to get, and I believe this is going to be a deeper survey.
Yes.
And that will set us up well to have future conversations about funding and how do we want to move forward with the streets.
And I can talk a little bit about that, which I need to find this presentation. I don't know where it is. I think it's on one of my other computers. But yeah, basically, if you think about every street, you can say every mile of street, it takes about $1 million to repave, approximately. And then there's usually other stuff if there's issues with the foundation or the sub pavement. Curbs, curb cuts, all that stuff adds complexity, and then water line and utilities as well. So yeah, when we're looking for funding, we try to spread it out. I say we, the city administration tries to spread it out over the city so that it's not like, oh, they get all the nice streets because this is the richest part of Norwood. That's not fair. Everyone should be able to have streets that are good for them. So I think that we've done a pretty good job of trying to spread the wealth. And I think that the new street survey will be a great way to continue to make sure our efforts are focused in the right place. And I got to put a shout out to the potential road levy that will be on the ballot potentially in November. So with our current level of investment in streets, my best estimate, it would take 30 years to repave everything. With this road levy, it would be more like 20 years to repave everything. So a significant decrease in time, about a third less of time, and quicker fixes, more roads done every year. That's the hope, at least. Obviously, so this is something that I think is the right choice, but it's something that voters have to choose. This is not something that we get to say, yep, we're doing this. I'm hopeful that we can make our case and get more money and then more roads get paved. But honestly, it's up to the voters. So, yeah.
I think it's going to be really important that we have the math and exactly to show the voters, here are the choices. And maybe there's one choice, maybe there's 2 choices, maybe there's 3 choices.
Yeah.
And once we get all the numbers from Jessica Miranda, the Hamilton County Auditor, we'll have a better sense of how much could we get and how far can that go.
And one thing that Hamilton did when they had a road levy, and not to say that we have to do this, but this is an idea I wanted to talk to once we got a sense of like how much money we could potentially raise, is that, okay, here are the roads we're looking at. Here are 2 or 3 roads in each ward. You guys in the ward, you get to pick which road actually gets paved if we have this money. Sometimes it's not possible, like because we have to get some grant funding for part of it, but that's what Hamilton did. I thought that was kind of a nice way to try to get community input. Not like say any road that you want, but say these 2 specifically, which one do you guys want in this ward more? We could or could not work depending on how we get funded, but I thought that was a good way to get the public interested.
After just sort of throwing all this information out, do you have a sense of what you would like to get out of this committee, what you want to accomplish in the next 2 years, year and however many months now?
Something that I'll share. And this is maybe a little crossover with the like outreach and engagement committee. But I think like even when I ask certain people in the city, hey, can I get like the list of like all the road projects and all the costs and like how much and all that kind of stuff. Like when was it done? It's hard to get like a comprehensive thing. And so I think that like if there were to be, for instance, like a page on the council area of the website that was like street transparency, and it just had like a simple kind of grid and then maybe had like a running kind of like cost per lane mile average of these projects or something like that. I think that would be because I get asked these kinds of things all the time. And there's no reason that it shouldn't just be like, well, just go here anytime you want and see, kind of the latest, reporting on it. So even this list that you just shared, some of these I knew about, but some of them I was like, oh, I just learned this right now, and like,
And it shouldn't be a secret. It should be something we're proud of, that like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what we're doing.
yeah,
I'm not sure that it's so much a secret as much as it is. It took me some time to pull the data and translate it from what, say, the safety service directors, what his information looked like versus
Right.
what it looks like now. Because for him, it's all numbers and dashes and
yeah.
things.
So I think just like that curation value add, like for residents to say, hey, we've gone back and I probably have it for those first couple of years from when I was doing the blog about these are the first few, and then we know what happened in 25, and so maybe there's like a marriage of what happened in, I don't know, 21, 22, 23 that would round out that list.
I mean, I think I would love to have this information public.
Yeah.
Just these, and again, I'm sorry that they're not up there. But the list of Norwood streets that have been done and the ones that are pending or that are coming online. Now, some of them, like we're putting out a bid, I think tonight for one of for
South
Jefferson. So this also should be sort of a growing document where, because I mean, I feel like Clint was always, Mr. Zimmerman was always like, oh, I found another grant and I got another more money. So now that he's the budget director and we have a new superintendent of public works, I'm hopeful that we can get more of this happening.
Yeah, and that would be even another addition. I'm building spreadsheets in my brain of right, like so it's like, a column is like street name, from this cross intersection to this next cross intersection. Like, how many lane miles is that? How much did that cost? And then like, what was the nature of the, was it just like a resurfacing or was it like a total reconstruction? And then maybe like funding, like how much did Norwood put up versus like what outside monies did we get to match that?
I can give you some of that information
Yeah.
because I accumulated a whole bunch of that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I made a little interactive map that you can click on, so I'll send that to you.
Like, I would love it personally, but I also want it just like for the
No.
general
For people,
public
yes,
consumption.
I agree. I think I need to update it actually with all the new roads we paved.
Would you, you said council website or council, so we don't
We don't have,
we don't really have one. What would you think would be the best way to share? And we
Yeah, I
can
mean, I
ask-
don't like, I'm just saying this like for instance. So if you go to the city website, there's like a departments, and then there's the city government and council. And you can see like our, there's meetings, there's our info and that kind of stuff. Like, I'm happy for it to live somewhere else, but at the very least, since we kind of like control that part of the digital real estate, if we just wanted to say like streets transparency log,
Community information.
right? And it was just here's everything you need to know about streets or whatever. I think something like that could be good.
Okay, I can look into that for sure.
On that note, I want to be clear to anybody that's paying attention that we don't get to control what streets get paved. I think we as council get to advocate, we get to appropriate funds, but the administration is where the buck stops with who decides which streets get done or not. And so I want to be very open for helping communicate that there is a plan and educate residents on what we're doing and what we can do. But I also want the residents to know that we're not the operators of the city, and so we don't get to make these decisions. I think we have influence, but ultimately it comes down to the superintendent of public works, the safety service director, and the
The
mayor's
state,
office.
and the state.
state,
Yep.
because that's who ultimately is chosen.
And Susan, just on that state note, and I agree with Mr. Groom's point about just continuing to like raise the civic IQ and help people understand sort of how certain decisions get made. As far as the OPWC, I'm going to reference a slightly different thing in terms of housing. I know that there was like opportunity zones that were trying to like attract investment into, let's say, remodelers in certain districts. Does the OPWC funding work in a similar way? Like, do they carve out, like census tracts or something like that to say this census tract is eligible, but that one is not?
I can tell you, here's the exact process. Number one, professional evaluation of existing street conditions. Consult with the city engineers, that's JMA consultants. Ensure projects have a wide geographic impact, such as when they look at streets, they look at what's a connector, what's a artery, what's a, I can't think of what the other ones are. Evaluate potential funding sources for street improvement projects, and then match potential funding sources to competitive projects. So it has to be competitive. Note, these projects are competing against proposals from other cities, counties, townships across the county and state. So then we submit the application for the grants, loans, and the grant loan programs. And then we find out if we get the money. And then we evaluate funding awards for financial impacts and community needs. So for the loan, that's a high, long impact to city financials, whereas the grant loan impacts vary based on the grant to loan ratio. And then the grant impact is, low impact because they just give us the money. And then pursue projects based on appropriateness of funding / community needs. That is the list that I got back in 2020 when I first got on council and was like, explain this to me like I've never done this before. So that's the process. And that's something I think we could put on a website. That's the most sort of high level, and then you can start getting into the real weeds. For example, one thing that might make a project more a higher priority is if we can also get the water line done at the same time. Because something that we've all seen, not just in Norwood but everywhere, is a street just gets fixed and then the water main breaks and now we have to redo everything. So when we have an opportunity to redo those, we try to do them at the same time. And so that's often with like the pairing of monies. Oh, and the biggest cost, just FYI, is not the street, it's the curbs. It's a different kind, it's a different material. And it's the concrete that's expensive.
Concrete is
not
very expensive.
the asphalt. Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
That's right.
If I could ask or suggest another thing to at least look into, I know that if you think about like every new lane mile, right, is like a perpetual liability for the city, in the sense that like and a lot of the road grid was set up decades ago, right? So that we're not doing that. But those choices made decades ago basically locked the city into paying a certain amount of money for maintenance indefinitely into the future. And I guess what I'm wondering about and just kind of thinking this out loud is, similar to what happened on Montgomery Road in the sense that it got narrowed down, right? And in doing so, that is to some degree going to reduce our sort of permanent repaving liability, because there is sort of less street to pave in the center part of the city on Montgomery Road. I wonder, from a policy perspective, if that is a sort of like required consideration for any new street project going forward. And certainly, I think the vast majority of roads in Norwood are 30 feet or less. So there's not a lot of opportunity to do this, but I can think of, a couple streets where, if it's 38 feet wide or 45 feet wide or whatever, and we're going to repave it and redo it at that time, do we sort of stipulate at least the consideration for a narrowing of that as to reduce our like total asphalt liability on public streets within the city?
That's a wild question. I have no idea. That feels like a great question for like a city planner. Because one of my Yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah, so I don't, I don't know the answer to it, but if I think about, the next couple of years, you know, like, is there policy related to, kind of the global set of considerations around, we're going to repave this, and while we're doing this, let's also, it is our policy that we review this or consider narrowing or whatever.
I'm happy to look into that. That's an interesting.
Or, or even I'll throw out another couple of things for just as a for instance, something that I drive on that little section of forest right by the Creamy Whip, going towards Lowe's. And if I'm not mistaken, the parking is still sort of on both sides there. Is it?
No.
Is it not on both sides?
Not in that little section, no.
Not in that
But
little
past
section.
it, past Robertson.
Schools there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, maybe a bad example, but in some cases, like, is there an opportunity to go more of a 3-lane model with parking on one side versus like always parking on both sides? Just some of those kinds of considerations around like the flow and sort of the use of it as streets are redone.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add something? I pulled up some numbers from the Finance Committee meeting of the night, and I just wanted to highlight that out of the general fund, we are spending almost $1.2 million on streets just out of the general fund. Out of the street fund, we're spending another $1.25 million. So we have a separate.
I'm sorry, I'm writing it down. One
Yeah.
point.
So it's 1.16 out of the general fund.
1.25 out of the streets.
Yeah, so that would get us 2 streets if we were paying for it ourselves, which is not very many. In terms of housing, I know one of the things that is important to me is we try to increase our home ownership. I'm not enjoying the out-of-state investors who are buying up our properties and not taking good care of them. Right now, what a lot of communities do is that they have fund, like the city of Cincinnati can have, programs in place to give a $5,000 down payment assistance to their resident. We don't, at this point, have anything like that. One of the things that was suggested years ago, which we've done, is to increase our apartments. With increasing apartments and density, we've got folks that are able to move out of the big houses downsize into smaller places. I always use the example of my house next door, big 3-story that had one elderly woman living there because there was nowhere for her to go. So now we have, several hundred new apartment availabilities coming online. So how can we try to make sure that those go to Norwoodians, people that are going to live here and be part of the community in a important way. One thought I tried doing this in the committee maybe 2 years ago, having like a how to buy a house class, and there wasn't much interest. That doesn't mean we can't try it again, but I wanted us to at least talk about what are things that we can do to support home ownership. Things like people working cooperatively. Can we join in on the repair fairs and prepare fairs? Right here in Norwood, we have Habitat for Humanity. There's a way that we can work with them. So while we're having these apartments come online that are both, different affordability rates, I want to try to get as many folks in housing as possible. Houses.
Susan, I guess a related kind of concept, 2 things. You talk about the total number of units, just doing some back of the napkin math here. It seems like the projects that you walked through on those green slides a minute ago, it's about 800 total new housing units. And I'll diverge off of that in the sense that, something that I've heard I've heard the mayor say, I've heard different people say, is kind of this idea of like a menu of housing options in the sense of like different types, different price points. I know that to some degree that the PowerPoint you just showed had some of that, but I guess it would be interesting to maybe almost even more diligently like enumerate that, to say like, we have this many townhomes, this many condos, this many single families, this many, apartments that are, let's say, large commercial sort of spaces, versus we have this many apartments that are like in small multifamilies, or, just trying to understand like what does our portfolio of sort of like housing look like, and just like how does that stack up? Like, are we missing things, or are there?
We have the data from the 2020 housing survey. Now, again, that's pretty a bit outdated, but it had not a bad list of that. And I specifically remember that we have a pretty nice chunk of 4 families, which is a really, really important sort of forced affordability, because those aren't going to go for huge amounts. But there's, again, I have a 4-family next to me that the woman's been living there for 10 years. So, someone who doesn't want to live in a house but can live in, right, getting distracted.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there other priorities that people have? I mean, I know like housing is, and people, home ownership is sort of one for me, but do other people feel like this is a policy that I really want to look into or move forward? Anything on streets? And what do we want to call safety? Or is it health?
It's health.
It's health. What do we want to call health?
I don't know. Think about it.
And maybe that's just as things get sent to us, that's when it becomes a health issue.
Well, I mean, what's the how should I think about the relationship of this committee relative to the building department, in the sense that, like, when you talk about vacancy and things like that, or out of state investors, like, I don't know. Is there any connectivity with the building department? Do we invite Mr.
We
Wolf in for a
absolutely
future
do. I
one?
would say right now the connectivity is, I have a relationship with Ralph Wolf and Mark Reeves. We talk about vacancy just last week, I think. So those conversations are happening, as well as with the Board of Health, because they, right now, the building department and the Board of Health are sort of our 2 arms that deal with vacant properties in terms of when they become more of a nuisance. Do they have weeds? Do they have broken windows? Things like that. Those are the first line of defense. And also, we've talked about the vacancy registry, which has a lot of pros and a lot of cons to it, and we could spend some more time considering that. So maybe homework would be for folks to think about, what do you want to take on? Because I would really love for us to have like a substantial shift through this committee with both the housing and the streets. And I think sharing information is probably a really good first start.
Do you mention that being more legislative, or do you see opportunities, like I know you talked about in terms of budget, like do you see this being more like legislative work over the next couple of years, or is it like, trying to gear up for a 27 budget cycle that it has more money allocated towards streets or towards housing programs or whatever?
Where I would see right now is more in the prep work. I'm open to legislation, but right now I don't see any legislation that we could do that would be of use if we don't have funding to support said legislation.
Got it.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. It's got 7:25.
Sounds good.
Any last thoughts, questions, comments? Can we go ahead and reschedule now while we're here? Or should we wait till we're in the committee of the whole and do it all together?
Let's wait.
Let's wait.
It's
That's
next
just
week.
week.
Yeah, so it's not.
All right. Well, thank you. And I will send these to everyone with all the images. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much. This